All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So good morning and welcome to our webinar, presently studying the Wishfulfilling Jewel by Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. So kindly begin with generating the intention to apply this for the benefit of ultimately establishing all sentient beings at the level of perfect enlightenment. Good morning. Good morning. So I'll begin with the just going over one of the lineage persons, particularly the lineage persons in conjunction with the Longchen Yingtik. And this is today Yeshe Tsogyal, who was Padmasambhava's closest disciple. And in terms of, and we're going to be using this language a fair bit today, in terms of her what we call ground of emanation, we would say she's no different from the primordial Buddha Samantabhadri. She's manifestation of Aryatara and so forth, Vajrayogini. And in the terms of the human condition, we would say she was born into a Tibetan noble clan, the Kachin clan, means great fortress. And she was raised as nobility, as a princess, and she was betrothed to King Trisong Detsen. And it said that she was his favorite queen and so forth, but that he offered her, and this, of course, in modern context sounds somewhat, how do you say, controversial. But King Trisong Detsen, and I think the intention here is not so much a display of machismo or anything. King Trisong Detsen gave away everything, and that included then the entire Tibetan realm. He offered the entire realm of Tibet, and also what you could imagine, his most precious, well, I guess we could file it in under association, his own queen. And of course, I think everybody around Trisong Detsen, or mostly, were disciples of Padmasambhava. So I don't think it would have been contrary to Yeshe Tsogyal's own wish. But she was offered as a part of the mandala then that King Trisong Detsen made to Padmasambhava. And Padmasambhava then entrusted to Yeshe Tsogyal so much of his teaching. She was his closest disciple. And you can read, there's several translations. I would warmly recommend one called The Lady of the Lotus Born, which describes Yeshe Tsogyal's life, and particularly also then the way that she practiced as a student under the guidance of Padmasambhava, practicing in the most tough circumstances. Also some extraordinary events, her journey to Nepal, finding her consort down there for her practice of yoga. She needed a particular consort, and she found someone in Nepal, but also on the journey down there, some extraordinary circumstances. Such an incredible narrative. And it said that she attained the perfect realization, and in terms of her wisdom, was no different to that of Padmasambhava. And also the Tibetans would regard her kindness, and particularly in the Nyingma tradition, her kindness is that of a mother. So many of the teachings that we have from Padmasambhava were spoken at the request of Yeshe Tsogyal. Many of the treasure teachings, they're based on the script. Yeshe Tsogyal wrote down condensed summaries of the teachings Padmasambhava was giving in what we call the Kini script, something that's not legible to people ordinarily, but to those who have the karmic propensity, then these little pieces of what we call yellow parchment, they make very much sense to the treasure revealer. And so many of the treasure teachings, they originate from the treasure revealer reading Yeshe Tsogyal's yellow parchments, and on the basis of that, writing out entire treasure teachings. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, for example, if you read in Blazing Splendor, you can read how Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, on the basis of a yellow parchment that was handed to the great treasure revealer Chögyal Dechen Lingpa, on the basis of that, he actually could write out a particular treasure cycle. So she's very important in terms of the transmission of the treasure teachings. She was mainly she was a practitioner of Vajrakilaya. If you look at the detail from a tanka we have here, she's holding in her right hand a kila, and it's said that she, on one occasion, certainly revived somebody who had passed away with her touch. But particularly here, then, what concerns us in the context of the Longchen Nyingtik is that she received from Padmasambhava, and it was one of the few, actually, well, there were some recipients of this, of the Heart Essence teaching, the Dzogchen Heart Essence teachings, at a place in the Orso Plaza called Tidrom. And there, Yeshe Tsogyal, as well as others, I'm not sure they were all entirely human, but they received then these Heart Essence teachings. And the Heart Essence teachings then were transmitted through Princess Pemasel, who was Trison Detsen's daughter, and she was entrusted, basically, the Heart Essence teachings after she had passed away. Padmasambhava awoke her again from having passed away, imprinted in her mind stream the essence of this teaching, and then she was born as a great treasure revealer who then passed this teaching on to Longchenpa. Well, actually, there was two people before Longchenpa, but anyway. So in this way, the heart essence of the Dakinis, of which then Yeshe Tsogyal was the first recipient, was then is passed down to us to the present day. So, like I said, for reading the extraordinary life of Yeshe Tsogyal, there's this Lady of the Lotus Born, where we have some, where we have the life of Yeshe Tsogyal. Okay. So then we'll look at the text itself. If I can find it. Yeah. So presently then, in the context of the Longchen Nyingtik Guru Yoga, Wishfulfilling Jewel, we're looking at the section which is invoking the Guru with devotion. So we would particularly then, in the context of the Ngondro, we'd chant this Jetsun Guru Rinpoche, Chinisanda Tamche Ki. Please listen to me, precious Guru Rinpoche. You are the most precious, most glorious embodiment of the compassion and blessings of all the Buddha, etc. We would chant that for quite some time. And now Khyentse Rinpoche is then explaining the reasons, the basis for the practice of devotion. He says, why do we make this prayer to Guru Rinpoche? Why is he the one to whom we turn? Ordinary people tend to rely on the person who has the greatest influence and power. So here we rely on Guru Rinpoche, who is the union of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who dwell in the countless Buddha fields throughout the 10 directions. He is the gathering of all their excellent qualities, ability, and power to benefit beings. So if we think of the qualities of enlightenment, we would generally describe these in terms of countless qualities. And particularly, we would think of these in terms of wisdom, compassion, and strength. And then Rinpoche goes on to say, in this universe, he displayed an absolute and unchallengeable mastery of all the techniques and accomplishments of the secret mantrayana. In this light, it is him we turn to in this age when the negative and poisonous emotions of sentient beings are extremely gross. Famine, epidemics, and wars prevail, and even those few who turn their minds towards the Dharma find terrible obstacles blocking their progress and preventing the attainment of the ultimate goal. Guru Rinpoche, in his omniscience, foresaw all this, and out of his limitless compassion, he provided effective methods for beings in this era. As he himself is uniquely endowed to help us, we can rely on him with unwavering confidence. As he said, whoever meditates on me, meditates on all the Buddhas. Whoever sees me, sees all the Buddhas. I am the union of all the Sugatas, the ones gone to bliss. Other places we would also, Padmasambhava would make it clear that when we are thinking of Padmasambhava, we are not thinking of somebody external. Ultimately, Padmasambhava is our own nature, this primordial condition that is untainted by confusion. But invoking the form of Padmasambhava is said to be particularly powerful because of Padmasambhava's example and his lifestyle as a great master who displayed the practice of enlightenment. Particularly then, as Rinpoche is saying here, in this difficult era. I want to just insert here something, and I regularly actually quote from this. I personally find this very helpful in terms of approaching the notion of Padmasambhava, which I think we can all agree on is rather unusual in terms of the cosmology and the way that we understand the world in the modern day and age. Of course, if you were brought up in the culture of Padmasambhava, then there's no difficulty. There's not only does this make sense on a spiritual level, but even on an ordinary level, then just you could see that anybody who practices the path associated with the teachings of Padmasambhava benefits. You can see it how it helps in terms of your own spiritual experience, and there's not really any doubt about the value of this. Like I'm always saying, this is a bit like me and my mechanic. There might be all sorts of knowledge to be had about the combustion engine, but I'm perfectly happy to just put the key in the ignition, and lo and behold, it drives. So similarly, I think in the Tibetan tradition, there's not so much questioning about the role of Padmasambhava, but for modern persons, I think we've touched on this earlier, it can be somewhat a leap of faith. And in Buddhism, while faith can be very helpful, and of course it comes from trust in the nature of the practice. So in some way, faith doesn't necessarily have to do with pro or contra, for or against. It's rather this delighting in the nature of the open quality of reality. Then also we do sometimes want to have something that sort of touches on what we can relate to. And in general, in Buddhism, we approach this with an understanding of what's happening within our own mind and how the mind can be understood in terms of its potential for confusion and its potential for clarity. So I'd just like to read something from Chögyam Trungpa, which very much identifies the role of Padmasambhava in terms of something that we possibly could relate to in a language that is more familiar to the modern person. And so Trungpa Rinpoche, he says here, the discovery of the path and the appropriate attitude toward it has a certain function spiritually. So that means that we begin to understand how the mind can be worked with, and also we can be clear about what it is that we're doing on the path. He says the path can make it possible to connect with basic, primordial, innocent being. We put so much emphasis on pain and confusion that we forget basic innocence. The usual approach that we take towards spirituality is to look for some experience that might enable us to rediscover our adulthood rather than go back to our innocent childlike quality. We have been fooled into looking for a way to become completely grown up and respectable, as it were, or psychologically sound. This seems to correspond to the basic idea we have of enlightenment. An enlightened person is supposed to be more or less an old wise man type, not quite like an old professor, but perhaps an old father who can supply sound advice on how to handle all of life's problems, or an old grandmother who knows all the recipes and the cures. This seems to be the current fantasy that exists in our culture concerning enlightened beings. They are old and wise, grown up and solid. Tantra has a different notion of enlightenment, which is connected with youth and innocence. We can see this pattern in Padmasambhava's life story, where the awakened state of mind is portrayed not as old and adult, but as young and free. Youth and freedom in this case are connected with the birth of the awakened state of mind. The awakened state of mind has the quality of morning, of dawn, fresh and sparkling, completely awake. This is the quality of the birth of Padmasambhava. Having identified ourselves with the path and the proper attitude towards the path, we suddenly discover there is something beautiful about it. The path has a freshness to it that contrasts sharply with the monotony of going through a program of various practices. New discoveries are being made. New discovery is the birth of Padmasambhava. So I think I might actually have read this. It's dawning on me that I might have read this earlier during this present study. But anyway, I think it's something that's quite valuable for us to just approach this in terms of appreciating this quality, and that is really what signifies the Vajrayana approach, this recognition that there is an untainted, if you like, youthful, uncontaminated quality that sparkles fresh and fearless as an abiding condition within us. We naturally are aware that there's a certain amount of confusion, there's a certain amount of fear, but that's external to our basic ground. And that's external to you could say, who we truly are. And this is where the Guru Yoga, invoking with devotion, the image of Padmasambhava, is connecting with this youthful and uncontaminated, fearless quality that is the ground of who we are. So we engage then with a strong sense of family, of belonging, of intimate union with Padmasambhava. And this is then the foundation for our devotion. Now we can describe Padmasambhava, the universal nature of Padmasambhava, and of course also this applies when we understand the Guru. We would say the Guru as inseparable from Padmasambhava can be understood in terms of unifying all the what we call objects of refuge, all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and everything that is beyond confusion. And so we understand here, Rinpoche says, on the outer level, his body is the Sangha, his speech, the Dharma, and his mind, the Buddha. On the inner level, his body is the Lama, his speech, the Yidam, and his mind, the Dakini. On the secret level, the level of the three Kayas, his manifested body is the Niyamana Kaya, in the aspect of Padmasambhava, the lotus born. His speech is the Sambhoga Kaya, in the aspect of Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of infinite compassion. His mind is the Dhammakaya, in the aspect of Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless life. So when we describe the three Kayas, we're describing the basic ground of enlightenment, or not only ground, but actually the completely awakened condition. And that's the Dhammakaya. Within that, there are countless qualities that manifest, and this we refer to as the Sambhogakaya. And then these qualities, as they manifest in the realm of sentient beings, we refer to as the Niyamanakaya. And here this is not just left as abstract, but embodied. We would refer to the Dhammakaya as Amitabha. Particularly, then we associate the form of Padmasambhava with Amitabha, because we'd say within the Dharmakaya we talk about the 5 wisdoms, and it is the wisdom of discerning, or the Padma family, that is very much about this compassionate engagement with the world. And this is further manifest in the manifestation of Avalokitesvara, Chenrezi, who is then seen as the embodiment of compassion. And it's then from this place that Padmasambhava unfolds his display within this world, this manifest, our experience of the world. So this in general is the way that we would understand the universal quality of Padmasambhava and of the Guru. Rinpoche says, from this we can see that Guru Rinpoche is in fact the very quintessence of all the Buddhas. We actually needn't think that there's something else beyond Guru Rinpoche. And it's not so much because that we're wishing to monopolize Buddhism as such, but it's more understanding that within the teacher's enlightened quality, there's nothing beyond that. We needn't think that there's something beyond enlightenment, this intangible quality of non-delusion. And so we naturally, within that capacity or that quality of enlightenment, all the enlightened qualities are perfect. So there, everything that we think of in terms of the qualities of enlightenment, they're complete. Rinpoche goes on to say, his vast Buddha activity is manifested most clearly to us through the fact that to beings like us, tormented by ignorance, he has revealed the precious instructions on what to adopt and what to avoid on the path. This will allow us to travel the path of enlightenment to its end. So there's a deep sense of gratitude, purely from the point of view of just that Padmasambhava taught. And if you look at the infinite, absolutely extraordinary heritage that we have nowadays, still, even with these difficult times, the teachings of Padmasambhava that exists within you could say that is the heritage of Tibetan Buddhism, it is incredible. The sheer amount, and also you could say the consistency. While there's many different treasure teachings, they somehow all, they're completely cohesive. There's sometimes one treasure has revealed one aspect, somebody will reveal another, but the language, the scope, the nature, and so forth, and down through over 1,000 years, is completely consistent. And the profundity, especially as we practice the path, the profundity of this becomes increasingly manifest. It's not as if there's something great that's like far out, and then eventually, as you get used to it, you get sort of a bit jaded and tired. It's actually the other way around, from the point of view if you practice it. So if you're a practitioner, then all of this heritage of vast amount of teachings become increasingly amazing, is seen as being increasingly amazing. Guru Rinpoche turns the wheel of Dharma unceasingly. We would say Guru Rinpoche, in the nature of the Nirmanakaya that is beyond birth and death, is someone that is still present within the universe, and also understanding then the inner level of Padmasambhava and the teachers, inseparable from our teacher. We would say that there is this continual process. Once we connect with Padmasambhava, there's a continual process of everything manifesting as the teaching. So we'd say the Guru Rinpoche turns the wheel of Dharma unceasingly in the speech aspect. Guru Rinpoche being the source of all Dharma, there is not a single one among the infinity of tantras and secret teachings in the universe that is not known and mastered by him. So we can look in the life of Padmasambhava. He studied with countless human and also non-human teachers. At present, we who inhabit this Jambudvipa, or earth, are not fortunate enough to see him face to face. Although he is no longer manifesting as a body visible to ordinary people, his present in all of his teachings. So very often if we read a work, we very often have a sense of the author. And so if we're reading the teachings from Padmasambhava, we have a sense of the presence of Padmasambhava. And also, as far as I'm concerned, then my experience is the teachers that we have completely embody Padmasambhava in their manifestation, and the living spirit of Padmasambhava is still there in the present lineage masters that are still with us this present day. To preserve, meaning the teachings, to preserve them for the sake of future generations and to ensure their potency and freshness, he transmitted them to his closest disciples and then concealed them in the form of dhammas, or spiritual treasures. So this, I think many of you are familiar with. This is then also what Geshe Tsogyal was very much charged with, is the concealment and the transmission of these treasure teachings. As these disciples took successive rebirths, they discovered the various treasures hidden by Guru Rinpoche in rocks, in lakes, in the sky, and within their minds. By rediscovering the dhammas at precisely the time when they would be of the most benefit, it was guaranteed that the treasures would not be distorted over the long process of transmigration from generation to generation. Hence, the Dhamma teachings is called the short lineage. So, of course, what could happen over time is that the transmission of particular teachings would be corrupted in various ways. And the treasure teachings coming directly from Padmasambhava to the treasure revealer in this particular age then is then why we call this a short lineage. And it has then the power of not being corrupted. If we practice these properly, with the requisite devotion and sincerity, there's no doubt that we will be able to receive common and supreme accomplishments. These teachings and the opportunity to practice them are offered to us like the vast array of possibilities in a large city. It is up to us to use them or not. So there is such an incredible array of teachings that are available, and if we have the complete trust, the devotion, and also pure intention, then there's countless needs for sentient beings that can be addressed through the incredible amount of various teachings that we have in the treasure teachings and also the orally transmitted teachings from Padmasambhava. Like it says here, it's like the possibilities of a large city. It's like you can find everything here. Fervent prayers to Guru Rinpoche will shut the doors that lead to rebirths in lower realms, simply because invoking the nature of Padmasambhava and this purity, it's that which cuts through all the sort of things that pull us down, all the sort of our ordinary fascination with the ordinary obscurations and so forth that hold us back. Invoking this presence of Padmasambhava completely frees us from that. And Rinpoche goes on to say, setting us firmly on the path to deliverance from samsara. This will eventually result in our achievement of enlightenment. Thus the Guru, glorious Vajradhara, is the root of all blessings through which everything can be accomplished. From the primordial Buddha Samantabhadra down to ourselves, the profound teachings have been transmitted through an unbroken lineage of enlightened beings. There are three kinds of transmission which correspond to the different levels of beings. The highest level, the mind-to-mind transmission, was given by Samantabhadra to the Buddhas of the five families. The middle level transmission, that of the Vijayadharas or awareness holders, is given by symbolic gesture or utterance. The last level, the ear-whispered oral transmission, is for individuals of ourselves. So we talk about these three transmissions. You'll see this referred to a lot. And there is then the most subtle one, which is just mind to mind, just knowing. And that's where we would say the Buddhas of the five families, no different from Samantabhadra himself, they then receive the transmissions. The middle level transmission is that of the Vijayadharas, the great awareness holders. Then these are simply, they would just receive indication, just a gesture, and understand through that. And then also we have these teachings that we receive, which are then referred to as the ear-whispered oral transmission. So these three transmissions referred to quite often. Khyentse himself received and can transmit all three levels of transmission. Since he possesses the full wisdom, compassion, and ability. Again, here we have these three qualities of enlightenment, right? Wisdom, compassion, and ability. Since he possesses these, he has mastery over the wisdom mind lineage. This is the first, the most subtle, manifesting in this universe in the form of a holder of the adamantine wisdom, meaning a Vidyadhara, a wisdom holder, crazy wisdom guru. Khyentse traveled throughout all the sacred lands, receiving teachings from all the great teachers, including the 8 Vidyadharas of India. So Khyentse famously had particularly 8 teachers that he received some particular transmissions from that we refer to as the 8 great sadhana sections. So as such, he received then this transmission that is associated with what we call the great sadhana sections. And in particular, he received from Sri Singha the empowerment of the efflorescence of awareness. And this has more to do with actually than the heart essence teachings. He was able to receive and realize all these teachings through gesture and utterance, and thus he holds the lineage of the symbolic transmission, the second kind. Never having to train or study, he received and was able to master instantly all the instructions and all the levels of meanings of the various classes of Tantra of the secret Mantrayana. Thus he holds the complete ear-whisper transmission. Having traveled to all the Buddha fields, he received the teachings of all the Buddhas. So again, this is something that extends beyond the familiar way that we approach the notion of education, clearly. At the same time, also, I think we have to realize that we are encountering a culture, a civilization, and a science that extends beyond what we're familiar with. And so I think we should keep an open mind about the nature of these various ways that we see a teaching being transmitted. Sometimes we hear people who would say, oh gosh, Buddhism is so outdated. It operates with these sort of belief systems and so forth. And, if we're going to have Buddhism in the modern world, we can't have that. We need to get rid of these sort of outdated ideas. And I think it's true that we do need to compassionately transmit the Buddhist teaching in terms of what makes sense to the modern person. We need to adapt the language, and we can see this is being done by many great teachers. But at the same time, also, I think in many regards, the modern world is very primitive. There's a very limited knowledge. So it's not as if we should all of a sudden just diminish Buddhism in the name of adopting it to the modern world. Rather, it's the question of the modern world actually rising up. What Trungpa Rinpoche says, we should raise our level of sophistication. And so, of course, abiding by, you could say, a epistemic premise of rationality, that we don't just believe anything. At the same time, also, we should understand how it's necessary for us to expand our vocabulary, our horizons in terms of understanding, in order to understand what is being described here. Padmasambhava's lifestyle is extraordinary, but at the same time, the more we read it, the more actually I think it might make sense in terms of our discovery of the nature of the path. And certainly the stories that we have from the lineage masters and down through to the present day, really, and still in this day and age, extends far beyond what we in the ordinary modern world understand as possible. There's a complete, you could say, defiance of what is possible when it comes to the descriptions of the lives of enlightened persons. So this is not something we need to approach with blind faith, but it's something where we need to extend our understanding of reality. Also complete within Guru Rinpoche are the three roots. Again, understanding the three roots in terms of this, the way that the enlightened condition manifests and can be integrated through various styles of practice. We then in the Vajrayana specifically talk about Lama or Guru, Yidam or Deva, and Dakini or Ngondro. So we would say, as the Lama or root of blessings, he holds the three lineages that we just described, as we have just seen. He is also the Yidam or root of accomplishment, meaning keeping Padmasambhava's, keeping the presence of Padmasambhava as our own particular practice. Then we would call this Yidam, then we would say this is the root of accomplishment. And also he is the Dakini, the root of activity. In keeping in invoking Padmasambhava, we're also invoking all the forces that assist us on the path. So we would say he is the Dakini or root of activity. In addition, the mandalas of the body, speech, mind, qualities and activities of all the Buddhas are complete in him. So now we're going to refer to these 8 great sadhana sections. In terms of the Vajrayana practice, we would describe the Sambhogakaya, or the intangible quality of enlightenment, in infinite ways. And so in the various traditions of Vajrayana, we refer a lot to various deities. So for example, in the Kyabje tradition, there's a lot of emphasis on the practice of Chakrasambhara, Gyalwa Gyamso, and so forth. In the Sakya tradition, Hevajra, in the Giluk tradition, Guya Samaj, Yamantaka, Kalachakra, and so forth. And in the Nyingma tradition, you have what we call the 8 great sadhana sections, which are practices that are associated with various forms of activities. You could say it's various ways of integrating enlightenment, and these are then practice of sadhana. So these sadhanas are infinite. They are associated with the 3 roots in terms of the Guru, the Deva, and the Dakini. And specifically here then, we're going to be describing Padmasambhava in terms of the Yidam. Let me just see here. Yeah. So we would say in addition, the mandalas of body speech, yes, okay, so the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities are all complete in him. And so then Khyentse Rinpoche, expounding upon this, then associated with 5 different sadhanas, he says, in the aspect of body, he is Yamantaka. In the aspect of speech, he is Hayagriva. In the aspect of mind, he is Yangdar Heruka. And in the aspect of activity, he is Vajrakilaya. Guru Rinpoche can, according to his wish, emanate the 108 peaceful and wrathful deities, displaying the entire mandala, or he can gather an infinity of deity and absorb them into himself. He is Amitabha, he is Amitayus, he is Avalokiteshvara, he is Aryatara, he is Vajrasattva, he is the 1,000 Buddhas, he is the 8 manifestations, he is the 25 disciples, he is the 84 Mahasiddhas, he is the gurus of the 8 streams of the teachings, he is our own root teacher. The scope of his activity and his power are such that simply by meditating on him, we can attain full Buddhahood. So what Rinpoche says here is that there's nothing lacking. If we're practicing Padmasambhava's sadhana, or if we're practicing this present practice, all the various aspects of the Vajrayana are complete. Guru Rinpoche is also the sovereign of all the Dakinis and protectors of the Dharma, who themselves are the root of all activity. Throughout the 3 places, let's see how they understand that. The sky, the earth, and below the earth. Yeah. Throughout the 3 places, the mere sound of his name arouses the Dakas and Dakinis to perceive him as their Lord and to offer him, they perceive him as their Lord. Hearing his name arouses the Dakas and Dakinis to perceive him as their Lord and to offer him the whole ocean-like expanse of the Tantras of the secret Mantrayana. At his command, the Dakas and Dakinis will clear the path of obstacles enabling us to make rapid progress. So the Dakinis and Dakinis, they are what? They serve the practitioners of mantra in terms of attending to them, and we would say accomplishing their activity. And also we would say that Dakinis and Dakinis are the secret Mantrayana Sangha. And so they're very often the ones who are referred to as the holders of the secret Mantrayana teachings. So I think I mentioned earlier how some of the Mahasiddhas, they received transmissions from the Dakinis, particularly up in Udayana, the northwest frontier of India. So this is in this way we would say Padmasambhava embodies the three roots. Okay, is there any qualities? Any questions? Sorry. Is there any more information is available on the 8 Vidyadharas? Were they rishis? Yeah, they were rishis of sorts. And there is information. I'm just not entirely sure. There's a lot of reference to them. Right now, by default, I'm thinking there's Dunjum Rinpoche's history of the Nyingma tradition. There might be some reference in there. I know there's Mipam Rinpoche's teachings on the 8 sadhana sections, which would undoubtedly have some reference to these masters, but that's not translated. We'll have to get back to that. What I can do is I can upload a piece which tells a little bit about how Padmasambhava received these transmissions. It's something that was spoken orally by Changnam Rinpoche from Shichen Monastery, and which I translated when we visited Australia, I think in 2001. So somebody kindly transcribed this informal talk, and it's that might give some idea. Actually, if you read the long life story, I'll upload that. But if you read the long life story of Rinpoche in two big volumes from what's it called again? Dharma Publishing. I think in there's some reference to the 8 Vidyadharas. Yeah. Yeah. So I think then in the Dudjom Rinpoche's history there is something in there. Anyway, I'll upload that piece which is more about the 8 sadhana sections. But anyway, yeah, okay. And by the way, if I were to forget, I'll try to do it right away. But whenever I promise things here, if I don't do it, please don't hesitate to just notify me, badger me. It's called bug me. Yeah, that's totally okay. Is the practice of Chenrezig alone also as complete as Guru Padmasambhava? I think if we look at the heart treasure of the enlightenment, there we would also say that everything is complete within the practice of Chenrezig. So we would see Padmasambhava and Chenrezig as inseparable. Yeah. Khyentse Rinpoche goes on to say, he does not hide within him the treasure of his wondrous qualities. His ever-flowing compassion is the compassion of all the Buddhas, and his ability to help beings is equal to theirs. In this decadent age, when nothing remains but degenerate traces of the original perfections, meaning just basically we live in the Kali Yuga, where the original conditions that there used to be in what we call the Golden Age is no longer there. Everybody's afflicted by violent emotions, and the lifespan is very short, and so forth. In this day and age, where the qualities of enlightenment are then strongly diminished, Rinpoche says, in this day and age, when the blessings of the deities, celestial beings, and all dharmas seem to be vanishing, those of Guru Rinpoche are in fact shining more brilliantly than ever before. His unceasing compassionate activity, rather than being diminished in this dark age, has become even more swift and sure. Now this is rather significant, and this is why this piece that I was reading before about Guru Rinpoche's unconditional, youthful, and fearless quality is so important, because we're not really touching on that which is subject to decay. So, of course, if we're working in terms of the general Buddhist vehicle, which is very much working in terms of the conventions of the ordinary mind, our ordinary perceptions, and seeing the world in an ordinary way, then yes, this is very, dire times. This is very dark age from the point of view of what is conditional. But if we in this day and age can invoke that which is unconditional, namely Guru Rinpoche's luminous quality, then this gives us a confidence within this ordinarily difficult situation. So practicing within this situation of the degenerate times with this vision of that which is unconditionally brilliant, then this gives us a confidence that enables us to make progress even more than we would ordinarily have if we lived in the golden age. So we would say, and this is basic really to the Vajrayana and to all the, particularly then the inner Tantra teachings and so forth, that the blessings of Guru Rinpoche are in fact shining more brilliantly than ever before. Of course, we would say, yes, the external realm of the Buddhist teaching is not looking too great. But at the same time, for those who practice, then there's an opportunity, an extraordinary opportunity. So we shouldn't in any way ever be disheartened, particularly if we are connecting with this particular teaching. We say, Khyentse Rinpoche continues, we say that Guru Rinpoche is the Lord or protector of all sentient beings because all turn to him for refuge. Beings afflicted by poisonous emotions and accumulated karma who turn their mind toward him will receive his compassion and his blessings. Realizing this, we can wholeheartedly offer him whatever we hold most dear, our body, our loved ones, our possessions, the very depth of our being, without the slightest hesitation. So we shouldn't hold back. We appreciate the greatness of Guru Rinpoche as being the most significant source of hope. And so there's nothing that we should hold back. We should just give away everything we own, our sweethearts, whatever stocks we hold, and so forth. Everything else really pales in comparison. So to hold on to anything would be very silly. And of course also it applies whenever we offer something up, then we're naturally creating the conditions for a condition of wealth. So it's not as if we're going to. It's not a bad investment. Put it that way. We make such an offering completely free from any second thoughts, giving him everything with utter finality, like a stone thrown into water. So I have teachers actually that have offered everything they own. One of my teachers, on I think 3 occasions, and of course I can't mention by name, but I know on 3 occasions this person has offered everything that he owns. And we see this down in the history of great masters as an expression of this bhakti, this devotion, not holding anything back. If we were able to offer all the gold contained in the entire universe, we should feel it is insufficient. No offering, no matter how immense, could ever be enough to repay the kindness of Guru Rinpoche. Again, Guru Rinpoche being the embodiment of what really matters. Everything else just so insignificant. From this point in our lives, until we reach his level of attainment, through our practice on the path, all the positive things that happen to us, all the signs and realizations, all the purification of our defects, all the benefits of good health, long life, and prosperity are due to the kindness of Guru Rinpoche. Whatever good things we may experience should be offered freely to the Guru without any clinging. Whatever unfavorable circumstances may befall us, whether illness, material loss, harsh criticism, unjust imprisonment, we should also attribute to the kindness of the Guru, for through our misfortunes we will be able to cleanse ourselves of accumulated negative karma. Like Padamba Sanja says, humans can take a lot of suffering and very little happiness. So in general, we would say, as far as the sufferings that we encounter, we should not only realize that they're actually beneficial, but we should actually rejoice when these unwanted circumstances happen to us. So this, of course, is not easy, but this is something that we can aspire to, and it's something that we could rejoice when we see great sages that actually have the capacity to approach their negative circumstances in such a way. Rinpoche goes on to say, we should never think, I have prayed to Guru Rinpoche so much, I have practiced so intensively, how could these things ever happen to me? Rather, we should be able to use our suffering on the path by taking upon ourselves all the sufferings of other sentient beings. So, of course, what happens to us has to do with our own particular karma. We're not talking theism here. We don't have somebody who's going to reach in and say, no, I'm going to make sure everything is going to be fine. That the Buddhas can't do. We're stuck within our own. You could say we're sealed off. And so within that realm of being stuck within our confusion, we have perpetuated so many causes of suffering. So yes, suffering is going to happen. But the thing is, we have now a way out. And so the way out consists of letting go of the habitual patterns that keep us within samsara. And this is what the path enables us to do proactively. So in that way, we should simply see all the sufferings as something that enables us to sharpen our capacity to practice. So when it says here we should be able to use our suffering on the path, we're talking about this in general terms, that we should not resent that it happens. And also we should think that when this happens, that we're suffering, we should also think or aspire, through my suffering, may the sufferings of others be purified. So we're willing to face the suffering that others have, and also not just for ourselves, but also whatever sufferings others undergo, we should think, may I take this upon myself. This is familiar from the general Mahayana teachings, of course. At the same time, here we have this particular skillful method of invoking enlightenment in the form of Padmasambhava. So this extends, in terms of skillful means, extends far beyond the ordinary Lojong teachings that we find in the general Mahayana. Of course, these are not. There's no conflict here, and so very often in the context of Tibetan Buddhism, of course, we combine these two, which is what we're doing here. We must realize that from now on, whatever we experience, both good and bad, is in the hands of Guru Rinpoche. Whether we roam through the Buddha fields, drinking from the teachings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or roam through the endless sufferings of samsara, we should think, Guru Rinpoche, you know everything that happens to me. I'm in your hands. And this is where we have this reliance, like it says, we give up our lungs, chest, and heart, or perhaps more in our language, heart and soul, this surrender to whatever happens. It doesn't mean that we become passive, but it means that we accept or engage with whatever happens in the sense of relying on the teacher. And this is where we have this mantra that is translated here, Guru Rinpoche, you know everything that happens to me, I'm in your hands. Tibetan we would say Guru Rinpoche Kyen or Lama Kyeno, and it's really just this sense of the presence of the teacher in terms of whatever happens. Again, this doesn't mean that all of a sudden we become passive and we just lie back and whatever happens. It doesn't mean that. We engage in the practice and so forth, but it's more the sense that whatever happens on our path, then continually there is the presence of the teacher manifest in whatever unfolds. Let's see. The easy way out of letting go. as they say, so simple, but not so easy to do. No, and that is why we need practice. So we have a lot of cliches that somehow actually reflect, just let it go, right? We have all these cliches. That's where we need the practice as the one that we have here. That in some way these cliches can become incredibly annoying, if they're just left as cliches. But if we have a way of actually integrating and realizing the wisdom that informs some of these sayings, then they become truths. And of course, here, through this path, then we can gain realization in this. So we have a path here. We're practicing. If we are able to develop this degree of confidence in Him, this quality of bhakti, then Guru Rinpoche will be for us like the ground on which we walk, always supporting us. From this total confidence, all the qualities and benefits will arise naturally. Unobstructed by obstacles, we will be free from sickness and suffering. We will enjoy a long life, and all our aspirations will be fulfilled. Yet these are only minor blessings. Most important, this confidence will give rise to experiences and realization. It will permit us to achieve the level of the great Vidyadharas of India and of the 25 disciples of Guru Rinpoche in Tibet. These are major blessings. So we might, as a result, have all sorts of, aspects of our lives might appear to go easier. But what really is important is that we emulate and follow and do what the great masters of India and of Tibet in the past they did. And also we can look at the teachers even in our present day and age and see their qualities and aspire to not just leave them as sort of idols, like pictures we put on our walls, but as our teachers that show us what we should do in terms of ourselves. With all this in mind, we should pray fervently, saying, I have no object of hope but you. In this decadent age, when all beings are sinking in the swamp of unbearable suffering, protect them from all this, O great Guru. You who are endowed with wisdom and grace and waves of blessings, grant the 4 initiations. You who are endowed with compassion, enhance my realization. You who are endowed with ability, purify the 2 obscurations. You in whom I place my hopes, establish me on the path toward enlightenment. Through you, may all the blessings of the Buddhas enter my mind stream. I pray to you now with my whole being. You and your omniscience can see that I have taken birth in this decadent age, full of disease and strife, when sentient beings are violent, proud, and arrogant, lacking diligence in the practice of Dharma, and always seeking what is unwholesome. In such an age, attachment, anger, stupidity, illness, famine, and war are always increasing. Here we are experiencing the fruits of our karma. Like a madman happy to walk into a fire, we happily accumulate the seeds of our future suffering. Like a blind man without a guide or a madman without a keeper, we are utterly sunk in the mire of suffering without even realizing it. You, Guru Rinpoche, can protect me from wandering aimlessly in this inferior, wild wilderness. Please bestow upon me the Vajra wisdom of your body, speech, and mind, and grant me the 4 initiations so that I may realize the profound meaning of the great perfection. Through your compassion, may my realization increase, and may you kindle within me the wisdom of the natural state. Yeah. So you have this prayer in the jewel, in the wish-fulfilling jewel. But here, yes, here we have it then with expounded upon by Khyentse Rinpoche. So you have the short supplication that we looked at last time, Chetsun Guru Rinpoche, Cheni San Tamje, And that you practice repeating for a period. And then when you've completed that, then you chant the verses upon which what Khyentse Rinpoche has now expounded upon. You chant that once, or you can do several times, but it then leads up to then the practice of the Vajraguru mantra. And so next time we're going to look at the practice of the Vajraguru mantra, which is then, we'll do that next time. I'm going to be traveling, just to let you know. I haven't exactly figured it out when I'm going to be able to log on. So there's going to be some times here in the maybe end of October and some time in November where I might not be able to do this. I might be in overseas, so it might be difficult in terms of the times. Anyway, I think for the next few weeks, I'll definitely we'll meet. So we'll meet next week and also the week after. Then we'll see. Yes, the way is clear and practice is to be done. With these beautiful prayers to Guru Rinpoche, can we integrate them in our Guru Yoga for Ngondro practice? Yes, by all means. By all means. There's no lack of prayers to Guru Rinpoche, and they are very beautiful. So, so please, yes, please chant them anytime, day and night, during practice and outside of practice. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we'll conclude at this point. Through this virtue, may all beings throughout existence awaken together without a single being left behind. In the pure realm of the luminous essence, the ground of the great perfection, may they remain inseparable from the kayas and wisdoms. Through all our births, wherever we may be born, may we be endowed with the 7 good qualities of the higher realms. As soon as we are born, may we meet with the Dharma and have the freedom to practice it properly. At that time, may we please the Holy Gurus and practice the Dharma throughout the day and night. Realizing the Dharma and accomplishing its essential meaning, may we cross the ocean of existence in that life. Thoroughly teaching the holy Dharma in this world, may we never tire of accomplishing the benefit of others. By this vast benefit of others, without partiality or bias, may all attain Buddhahood together. Oh, I apologize. Yes, we're back to standard time. We're not on daylight saving time anymore here in Australia. So I'm very sorry. Well, we have a recording. It should be in the box. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. I wasn't even aware of it myself. I should have known and told everybody. Anyway. Yes. Go for the recording.